Next, we'll be looking at the point-slope form of a linear equation. The goal here is going to be to find and also graph the equation of a line using this point-slope form instead of the slope-intercept form that we did before. So we'll start with, what is the general form of this point-slope form? Now, if you'll recall, before we had y equals mx plus b, and this was your slope-intercept form. M was your slope, b was the y-intercept. Now, we're going to have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. M is still the slope. That's not going to change. Y and x, those are variables. So they're going to stay y and x. They're not going to change. The only difference is this y1 and this x1. And those are going to come from a point that you know is on the line. So if you know that the point 1, 2 is on the line, let's say, then x1 would be 1, y1 would be 2. But that's coming from some point that you know is on the line. And that's why it's called the point-slope form, because it's a point that you know and a slope. So for example, let's find the equation in point-slope form of the line with slope 3/5 through the point 3, negative 4. So whenever it says point-slope, our answer better look like y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Just reading through this problem here, I know the slope is 3/5, so there's my m. And then it's through the point 3, negative 4. So there's my x1, there's my y1. So we'll fill all this in. So y minus a negative 4, we'll simplify that in just a second, equals 3/5 times x minus 3, because x1 was 3. So my final answer, y plus 4 equals 3/5 times x minus 3. So there's the equation of your line in point-slope form. Now in point-slope form, let's find the equation of the line through -2, 5, and also 4, -3. Then, separately, I want to write this in slope-intercept form. So this problem has kind of two parts to it, so I'll separate them. The first one is we want the point-slope form. So point-slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And then after I figure out that, I'm going to rewrite it to be slope-intercept form. So two parts here. First, for this point-slope form, we need a slope. The problem didn't give us a slope, so we need to find that out. So we'll use our equation that we know for slope. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So -3 minus 5, that's -8. 4 minus a -2 is 6. So it looks like our slope is -4/3. So there's your m. Now we need an x1 and we need a y1. Well, you actually have two options here. You can use that first point or the second point. It doesn't matter. You're going to get the same answer either way. I'm going to go ahead and use the first point just because. So my x1 is -2, my y1 is 5. So my final answer is going to be y minus 5 equals -4/3 times x minus a -2. So just fixing that negative negative, y minus 5 equals -4/3 times x plus 2. Okay, that's the first part of the problem. So this was kind of your question 1. Question 2 was to rearrange this so that I have it in slope-intercept form. And the reason you would want to do this is because it's easier to graph once it's in slope-intercept form. So just keep that in mind. So our equation was y minus 5 equals -4/3 times x plus 2. There are a couple things you could do first. I'm not really into solving with fractions a lot. I think most people would agree with that. So I'm going to multiply everything by 3 to get rid of that fraction. So 3y minus 15 equals -4 x plus 2. So I multiplied both sides by 3, if you're wondering what we did there. So I multiply both sides by 3 and got down to this part. Next, I'll distribute this -4. So 3y minus 15 is -4x minus 8. We're getting close. Remember, I want to get y by itself. This is my goal here. Y equals mx plus b. So I'll add 15 to both sides. And that gives me 3y is -4x plus 7. And last thing, to get y by itself, I'll divide both sides by 3. And remember, when you divide both sides by 3, you got to divide everything on the right-hand side by 3. So y equals -4/3 x plus 7/3. Both of these equations give us the same line. So what I've circled, the 1 and what I circled for 2, those give you the same line. It's just two different ways to write the same equation. Now in point slope form, we're going to find the equation of the line through 6, -2, and -4, 1. Then we'll find it in slope intercept form to graph it. So really 3 parts here. So we'll separate this into 3. Part 1 is going to be my point slope form. So that's my y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Part 2 says change it to slope intercept form. And then part 3 says based on part 2, graph it. Okay, so we got all our steps here. Let's start with my slope. Slope wasn't given to you in the problem, so we got to find it. So slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that gives me 3 over -10. So far, so good. It doesn't matter which point you pick, just pick one that you like. The -4 and 1 are smaller numbers, so I'll go ahead and choose that. So my x1 is -4, my y1 is 1. So my equation is y minus 1 equals m times x minus -4, so I'll go ahead and write it, that's a +4. Good. Next, we're going to switch this around and make it into slope-intercept form. So our equation right now is y minus 1 equals -3/10 x plus 4. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by 10 to get rid of that denominator. So multiply by 10 on this side, multiply by 10 on this side. That gives me 10y minus 10 equals -3 times x plus 4. Next, I'll distribute my -3. So 10y minus 10 equals -3x minus 12. And we're getting pretty close here. So I'm going to add 10 to both sides. Remember, the goal here is to get y by itself. So 10y equals -3x minus 2. And last thing, divide by 10. Remember, divide everything by 10. So I'm going to get -3/10 x minus 1/5. Okay, so this might be a little bit difficult for us to draw because these numbers are so big, but I think we can do it. To draw this line, let's start with our y-intercept. So our y-intercept was -1/5, so something like this. There we go. And now my slope is -3/10. So that means the rise is -3, so 1, 2, 3. And my run is 10, which I'm not actually going to be able to do all the way over, but you can imagine it's going to go all the way over there. And so there's my line. Right, next, and this is our last example. In point slope form, find the equation of the line through the point with a given slope, then do it in slope intercept form, and then graph it. So again, this is my 3-part problem here. First, we're going to find the equation in point-slope form. So let's write that out. Then we're going to find the equation in slope-intercept form, and then we're going to graph it. All right, so we got our work cut out for us here. The slope is actually given to you in the problem, so that's nice. I know that m is -1, and we have a point, so I know that x1 is -1 and y1 is 2. So our equation in point-slope form is y minus 2 equals -1. We don't really write the 1, we just write the negative, times x minus a -1, so plus 1. So there's our equation. Next, I'm going to manipulate this and get it of the form y equals mx plus b. So I have y minus 2 equals negative x plus 1. I want to solve this for y. So let's start by distributing this negative. So if I distribute my negative, I get negative x minus 1. And then I'll just add 2 to both sides to get y by itself. So I get negative x plus 1. Once I have it in slope-intercept form, now I can graph it pretty easily. So I'll start with my y-intercept. The y-intercept was 1. And my slope was -1, which is really -1 over 1. So that means rise, -1, run, 1. And we'll just connect those. So there's my line. Hopefully you can see that it's easier to graph from slope-intercept form than it is from point-slope form. So that's why we're actually doing this.